a couple things up. Earlier I was going through my stack of art cards and I was looking for things that had images just kind of already like in the smear, in the paint smear, and one of them I had started on, so I was going to go ahead and finish these up since I had made the first bit of brush strokes, which is where I essentially outline the figure. And later I come in and I do the background. So in this case, and I'm trying to absolutely preserve every part of it that was already there. So I'm just concentrating on the space around. So again, it's sort of this Rorschach test style of discerning images in an ink blot. Okay, so far the idea here is, or at least the appearance is that the figure is on some kind of a ledge 1 foot over, looking down. And so down here, of course, we would have the cityscape. The other one was this, you already see it from the outline. This is the individual looking down into the smartphone. So I'll just highlight the hand on the smartphone. Of course, his face is gonna be lit up. And the background I just did red just for the purposes of defining the picture, but I'm probably gonna black that out. Or maybe blue. But the process is what I was trying to demonstrate earlier. The random ink blot test as a starting point for a painting. I'm just killing a little time. I'm taking breaks frequently. Okay, this one's interesting. So what do you see here? It may have started as something. I don't know if this one is a random ink blot, but I'm actually seeing quite a bit in this one. So in this case, and I will outline this one in blue. I'll get a completely dark background. I see a pianist at the instrument. So what I'll do is I will do the entire background around. And I always like to leave a little edge, like an outer glow, which gives me a margin of error. My brush is a little crude. I believe this one's dried out, but I don't really bother too much with the brush. I prefer them to be dried out. So it functions more like a nub from a Sharpie marker. Okay, I see the bench. So I guess I'll probably do in the foreground, we'll see what shows up. I'm even seeing lines from a stage. You see those lines? So hopefully you got the idea. Okay, so this one, earlier I was suggesting it was some kind of a wolf head that I was highlighting, but it seems to have morphed either into a buffalo, but then I look closer, and if I zoom in you can see it. I kind of see this, it looks almost like a couple walking through the woods, like a Little Red Riding Hood style figure. And so in this case, I think what I'll do is I'm going to box around these two characters and see if they as clear as I think they do. And when it comes to doing detail work, I actually find the phone useful It's like a magnifying glass. Okay, so I see like the grass, definitely a tree, and some kind of a structure up ahead. So again, this is a kind of rough, but what I'm seeing a second person, but it could be the same person, but I think I'm gonna try to make it into a couple. When I come back on this piece, I'll just start it now. Since I'm already using blue, I'll be able to get the greens that I need just with yellow and mixing with what's on there. So I want to emphasize the coming out of the woods. And then down here it'll be more yellow. But I'll develop this piece a little bit more later. I'm still going through trying to rescue what I can. I'm gonna list them all on eBay. I literally have about 500 pieces that are like 90% complete. Looks like I had an alien in the works here. So not everything here is gonna be completely abstract and random. I have done some rough drafts. The alien people are active right now. They think that there's going to be a report of a UFO crashing on Earth in November. They're so gullible. And ufology is a disingenuous misnomer. It's not an ology. It's a superstition at this point. All right, I'm going through your comments. Kevin Mooring, what's up? I need ice, yes. Spider, says Mazel. Oh, I missed that. But these are, again, just sort of an ink blot test. So the way I typically do it is the ink blot, and then you get a second piece. So if you ever buy little art cards from me, like let's say you bought this one, you'll always find I'll have all kinds of stuff on the back. All right, so this one's interesting. Okay. This one has a lot of movement in it. Like I could make this into, it looks to me like somebody perhaps even doing some kind of a kick, but it certainly has a lot of motion. Or in this case, and this is kind of morbid, but it looks like a body on its side, and this green here is like the blood coming out of its head. It's quite a lot here. I might let this one dry and ponder on it, but very evocative. You know, when you can look at something and picture a number of different images within it. Looks like a hula dancer with a straw skirt, says Kevin. Yeah, absolutely. I certainly see that. I could go in a number of directions. And the feet look like hooves. And so I'm looking at it, if I look at these as hooves and I look up, I can kind of make out what could be the head of like a minotaur. Or even make it into a full-on charging bull. But yeah, there's something there. Let's try another one. I like the yellow-blue combination. Okay, let's... Again, we're doing the ink blot, Rorschach art. I usually leave a bit more negative space, but in this case, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to get the mix of the two. So do you see the face in here? I see a very distinct, like goblin-looking face. Let me see that eye. I don't know how good the lighting is where you are. I mean, from your perspective, but... So what I'll do oftentimes is I will find what appear to be very, detailed little characters like this one here. And I'll make sure to preserve it. And then I'll build the entire piece around it. So I'm going to preserve that particular face and see where it goes, but I definitely see some kind of a troll or a goblin type thing. Looks like a mouse. Yeah, I see that too. I mean, it's highly subjective. But this is how you monetize apophenia. Or pareidolia. Apophenia is when you see patterns. Pareidolia is when you see things that aren't there. Although technically for the disorder to be a disorder, I think you have to actually think it's there. Like people on DMT who think they're talking to gnomes. But they have an excuse, they're on drugs. Okay, so this is looking to me like the corner of a room. So even without even selecting a focal point, I'm gonna preserve that. Yeah, I'm seeing something really interesting here anyway. I see a person peering over. Let me highlight this person. Like someone looking over a ledge, or perhaps looking out into a lake. But I see a pretty distinct face, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this one as is. And the hand has some detail. Up Rebel Black. We're just here, not killing time, but I'm taking a break from the audiobook recording. And I'm working on this disaster piece up here, so you get a better view. So what should this house be? I mean, I had this idea for doing like this Tartaria style art where you've got submerged architecture. But I thought, I could just as easily put a Taco Bell right here. But I have this rift opening up in the ground. The perspective is obviously 100% incorrect. I'm kind of like AI. I could probably do something with 6 fingers and not notice. No, a lot of the AI art improved quite a bit, and I'm not against it. This one's looking interesting as well. So in the black space here, I definitely see some kind of a face. And it's looking at whatever this is, or whoever this is. So like, if you look at this as the back of somebody's head. This is someone's back. Person is turned down. I find this one seems to be pretty clear to me. I may work with it. I am definitely gonna have to get a magnifying glass to work on some of these details. All right, so let's see here, the Taco Bell. That's what I was working on. I'm still trying to come up with the right title for the book, which is really a compilation of things, but Handbook for the Recently Deprogrammed was one, because we're trying to describe life post-paradigm shift. You know how after you die, they give you the handbook for the recently deceased. Sort of like that. Like you're going to need to know certain things in order to make sense of what you're experiencing, or to put things in the right frame. The other title was like World Stage Exposed, something about the PSYOP complex. But I'm open for either. Both have good cover concepts. But the idea of handbook for the recently deprogrammed is okay, but I don't know if it means that I need to really do more thematically with the book to make it more like a. We'll see. Like, I'm open to anybody's suggestion. A lot of people like handbook, and I will make the art reflect that because I am filling it up with AI art. Kevin Mooring says the 9/11 memorial. Well, I was talking earlier about James Cameron and the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean, and then having Cameron there, and then the Twin Towers up there. I had a couple of ideas regarding this because of Cameron's significance, and I thought that would be kind of interesting to have him like in his deep sea Challenger deploying a tactical nuke or something and actually hitting the towers or something. But I don't know. He's one of the more interesting of the metascriptors just by looking at the things that he has been adjacent to. But I think we have a pretty well established process for making these assertions that person A has something to do with PSYOP A. And this is not hard to explain. I mean, for one thing, this is where the synchromystics get it wrong, is they think the directors are unconscious conduits for the messages that they put in their films. And so when you say, well, no, James Cameron is inserting government propaganda into movies at their behest, their response is just incredulity. They haven't even considered that. Their first consideration is that this or that director channeled the content rather than leaping to, no, these are sellouts, just like you would expect, like Kubrick is believed to be. They're doing work for the government. They're doing propaganda. Is it hard to believe that mainstream movies are propaganda? Or that it's layered? Or that the timing of the releases is used to create an echo chamber prior to a fake event that the movie has prepared the audiences for? Like, this is something that reveals itself over time. And so you cannot look at events in isolation and then say, this is the cause. And I think what we have done as a think tank is something that hasn't been done in this corner of the internet, which is we have systematized our research and made these observations consistently to the point where we could make predictions. Like, I did say that the flight that hit the chopper was likely a drill, or done during a drill. And it was a continuity of government drill. I did say the right wing would blame DEI and the left would blame Trump and Musk. And that was true as well. Real life isn't that predictable. Is it a guide? Yeah, it really is a guide. In fact, let me bring up the table of contents. Let's go ahead and go over the table of contents. My intention here is to record it as a long audiobook. All right, here we are, table of contents. And it's, right now it's 285 pages. And so I'm going through it to make sure it's not repetitive. So information overload, part 1. What is auto-hoaxing? Believer versus knower. Belief systems versus operating systems. Deluge of confusion. Captive passive audience in a closed system. Uninformed, misinformed, and the informed. Part 2 is the world stage. Subsets within a closed system. Off-world stage, observer, the realm of possibility. So I'm going through the parts though. I'm just reading some chapter titles. So part 2 is the world stage. Part 3, none dare call it hoax. And this is the part that deals with the resistance to the people who adhere to conspiracy dogma. That section has time-wasting rabbit holes, conspiracy dogma, certainty versus clarity, simulated, not stimulated. Part 4, frames of reference, MSM, MSM plus, and minus. Skepticism versus incredulity. Undupable. Ego is the final guardrail. Part 5, lie world. So part 5 goes into the programmers and the distinction between world stagers and off-world stage, the open and closed system, the echo chamber it creates. Here I also explain the predictive programming and what it really means. Introducing the parallel media. Truth or bait. The fake awake. Death clingers. Myth making. God constructs. The false flag or real trap. And then I have the appendix with the glossary, axioms, and then the ebook Anti-Anti is also going to be included in this. So that's just kind of an overview of a lot of the chapters. So what it provides is, you could say it's a philosophical treatise, perhaps, but it's a collection of articles about media consumption and the different modes of consumption depending on your presuppositions, your point of view. And the point of view is key to understanding this. So when we talk about AI having the POV of MSM, we mean that it's firmly grounded in the mainstream mediated version of events and things. That's its frame of reference. Nothing you say outside that frame of reference will compute. So we know this. It is guardrailed. Well, human beings have been guardrailed, and they live in that box. And that box is a set of parameters and superstitions, hyperstitions, and psyops treated as real, which has a cumulative effect over time of giving increasingly more and more creative control over those who control media over our worldviews, which is our construct of the world that we've internalized. So what I'm making the point in this book here is that if you haven't seen through the tricks, the manipulations, and the long-term effects of these, then you are by definition programmed. If you're consuming media passively because you trust your sources, you're programmed. Deprogramming is an active stance. It's a stable stance rooted in skepticism, the suspension of judgment, and becoming informed enough to know that the difference between misinformation is real, but also being informed permanently. You have to have this permanent lens, recognizing that you have a worldview that is not matching the territory in very significant ways. And for people who are in the box, it's hard for them to imagine why it could even matter. And it's easy to dismiss it, but it's like, really, if you live through 2020, you should understand the power of this modern religion. And I'm not even saying it's something to resist. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm saying it's something to understand, that we have been covertly put into what you could consider to be a global theocracy. It's totalitarian in its reach. It's in everyone's head. But it's the big conspiracy that the conspiracy theorists can't see, because they're trapped in a world of many, many conspiracies, which I call the meta-conspiracy. The meta-conspiracy is to keep them all busy. Smoke and Mirror says, Taylor Swift is an obvious social engineering operation controlling blue votes and poisoning the minds of girls with all men are pigs, except her. Yeah, I think she's an op. And isn't it interesting that the Pentagon came out and they said Taylor Swift is not a psyop. So the public, for the first time, had to confront psyop. And Joe Rogan's like, what's a psyop? Like these people have no clue. And that's what I'm saying about the necessity for this book, is that we need terminology, we need a deeper understanding. You need to be informed. And these are the cognitive tools. So the cognitive tools are, all the loudmouths are loading headlines with the smuggled premises. Everything is a manipulation. And the low-level manipulators don't even have to be in the know about it. Most people are steered by useful idiots. And the position of the useful idiot is going to become increasingly untenable as we expose how these psyops work. And people get mad. People get mad because truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth and all that, but they want to cling to things on an emotional basis. And that's why I say death clingers. Like I say, nobody dies in psyops. Well, there are death clingers, very popular ones. Like there's one I just recently blocked because she's annoying. She's on X. I mean, I like her work as far as her symbol analysis, but as far as the value of her overall assessment, no, it's been rendered worthless because she insists that people are dying in psyops and these are blood sacrifices. Okay, so the instant you grant them the essential reality, you've basically acquiesced to the program. You're in the box. So she's there praying for victims on Twitter and stuff, and I'm like, okay, you're just virtue signaling. But then I'm bad for calling it fake. But there's a reason why it matters. And this is why I say they need the cognitive tools. They need the understanding to why it matters that people don't die. And the reason why they don't know is because they haven't thought it through several steps ahead. Like, oh yeah, of course they kill people because they're so bad. That's appeal to motive. Of course they kill people because magic, Satan, satanic sacrifices. Okay, let's start with the premise they're killing people during the creation of propaganda films. There's a whole list, there's a litany of reasons why it would be a bad idea. It'd be like killing people in real horror films, the legalities of it, the negation of the NDA. But there's quite a lot else that I just don't think they've really unpacked. Like, for example, my phone's probably going to overheat. The scale of the scale of any of these things is really hard to see, because you're like talking about an event which is not a small scale group of guerrilla filmmakers doing a hoax to fool the world for a PR stunt. No, this necessarily involves government approval, people with high security clearances in the police departments, the fire departments, the hospitals, and they're all colluding in every single one of these fake events. Like Butler, Pennsylvania shows that, hey, the Secret Service are part of the show. So why are they psyoping everybody? Well, it's not left psyoping the right. It's not Trump tricking the world. It's bigger than that. The scale of it is what allows it to hide. And it's the only real conspiracy. It's the only one we can prove. And yet you still have people chasing chemtrails and 5G towers. It's like they totally got the truthers nullified. And the book will explain why that is. It demonstrates the difference between perspectives when one is, and we were talking about this earlier, when one is in the MSM box built upon a literal interpretation of history, not accounting for news bending, psyops, influence operations, which have a measurable effect on what we get as far as our consensus version of things. I mean, again, the truth doesn't matter. It's the lie world order. What the consensus believes is the de facto truth. They just blunt force, mind hack the system, and they steamroll over people who might disagree. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream before my phone bursts into flames.